Native culture, Native knowledge. Hi, I'm Jeannie Green, bringing you award-winning Heartbeat Alaska.
Bringing you national and international Native news, this is award-winning Heartbeat Alaska, the premier Native voice in Native programming.
There's a heartbeat, louder than thunder, revolution is in the air. There's a heartbeat deep inside our mother. Are you too cool to care?
Now, with Heartbeat Alaska, here's Jeannie Green.
Hello, welcome to Heartbeat Alaska, Native news and Native entertainment. So nice to have you with us. Hello to our viewers in the state of Washington. Received a letter recently from Michael and Susan Brock. They live in Kelso, Washington. They tape Heartbeat Alaska and show it to the youth in their Indian education program. Thank you so much for joining us. Hello to our viewers in West Virginia. Received a phone call from a viewer there. So glad to have you with us. And hello, rural Alaska, in particular, our friends in Stevens Village. On today's program, the Alaska Intertribal Council met once again. We have a new music video from Anthony Adams, and we visit with the Native Americans in the state of Maine. Here's Gary Fife with Native News Across the Nation. I'll be back real soon, so don't go away.
This month, the Federal Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals rules that Indian country does exist in the legal sense of the word within the state of Alaska. The court decision supports efforts by Native sovereignty activists to have Native villages exercise broader governmental powers. This past week, they got words of encouragement from the Assistant Secretary for Indian Affairs, Ada Deer. During a speech to the Alaska Intertribal Council this week, Deer said Native governments have a bright future, but their recent court ruling is only another step in a long process. The state of Alaska has pledged to battle it in court all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court if necessary. And Jeannie will have more on this later in the program. News accounts this year have talked about hundreds of illegal immigrants getting into the U.S. by crossing the U.S.-Canada border through Mohawk territory. American immigration authorities report that last fiscal year, they caught about 300 illegal aliens who had entered through the Akwesasne Reserve on the U.S.-New York border with Canada. They suspect that's only about 10% of the illegal traffic that actually goes through the Mohawk Nation. In South Carolina, the small Catawba tribe is trying to ensure their future by providing college scholarships to their tribal members. 3 years ago, the tribe got $50 million in a major land claim settlement. Now they're using $140,000 to give Catawbas college scholarships. It was a good year for those Catawba students. All 36 who applied got scholarships. In Northwest Alaska, the Bethel Native Corporation is taking the Bureau of Indian Affairs to court for a 1993 oil spill. The natives are suing the federal agency for damages to 1,400 acres of native land by a leaking fuel tank used by the BIA. 110,000 gallons of diesel fuel spilled across the tundra, and the Bethel Native Corporation charges the agency had no fuel spill contingency plan. We'd like to thank those of you who have begun sending your news and your videotapes. We certainly do appreciate it and like to share them. We're going to tell you how to do that, and then I'll be right back with more Native news across the nation right after this.
Contact Heartbeat Alaska with your news. Heartbeat Alaska, 5861 Arctic Boulevard, Unit B, Anchorage, Alaska, 99518. That's Heartbeat Alaska, 5861 Arctic Boulevard, Unit B, Anchorage, Alaska, 99518. Or give us a call at 1-907-563-7440 or fax us at 1-907-563-9309. Heartbeat Alaska, your news is our news.
Both tribes of the Cherokee peoples are calling on the state of Georgia to halt its practice of declaring small groups as officially recognized state tribes. The Eastern Band of Cherokee of North Carolina and the Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma are both voicing opposition to the state declarations. Georgia had officially designated 3 local groups as tribes. In the past, the state said it made the move in order to help those natives gain social services. The Cherokee tribes say they're only in it for the money. An art show focusing on the role of women of the High Plateau tribes is running now in Pullman, Washington. It's called A Song to the Creator, Traditional Arts of Native American Women of the Plateau, and it will run through December 15th at Washington State University in Pullman. The Plateau region reaches from the Rocky Mountains to the Cascades of Washington. The exhibit highlights the work of 16 women who kept alive these tribes' traditions and cultures. If you're traveling through Bemidji, Minnesota anytime, take a look at the new Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurant there. No, this isn't an endorsement for their food, but look at the outside, at the mural painted by Ojibwe artist Bob Punk Wakanabu. His work reflects the natural setting of Minnesota's landscape and wildlife, but there peeking out of the woodlands setting scenes, the subliminal image of KFC founder Colonel Harlan Sanders can be seen in several places. And finally, December 7th is remembered by Americans for the surprise attack launched by the Japanese against U.S. naval forces in Pearl Harbor. The aerial attack provoked outrage and a declaration of war from the United States government, but the Muskogee Nation News reports the U.S. declaration of war was preceded by one from an Oklahoma tribe, the Osages. The Osages were the first sovereign nation to declare war on the Japanese on the afternoon of December 7th, one day ahead of the U.S. action. We'd like to say hello to those viewers who are watching us in San Diego, California. We certainly appreciate you paying attention to us. This is Native News Across the Nation. For Heartbeat Alaska, I'm Gary Fife, and back to Jeannie and more of our program.
And from this Mesa view, I see memories of you. Between the gold and the past, they say I won't last. My heart is crying for you. I hide from this Mesa view.
As Gary mentioned earlier, Alaska Natives have achieved a great victory with the Federal Appeals Court ruling that establishes Indian country in Alaska.
This past week, the 5th Annual Alaska Intertribal Convention met. One of the topics of discussion was the recent ruling, a federal appeals court ruling that establishes Indian country in Alaska and appears to extend the definition to many villages in the state. In a ruling handed down November 20th, a 3-judge panel of the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals reversed an Anchorage federal judge and said the interior villages of Venetie and Arctic Village and 1.8 million acres of land controlled by their joint tribal council are Indian country, a legal classification that applies to reservation land in the lower 48. While this recent ruling is considered a victory, many are afraid there are those who may try to restrict or reverse the Indian country ruling.
The Venetie decision is not a done deal. There's probably going to be some extended promises that the state will follow through on challenging that ruling. So we're probably going to have to be concerned about that and follow that very closely in the legal system. And also, we're concerned that the Alaska congressional delegation may have some options of chipping away at that kind of a decision that will have a negative impact on tribes.
The Alaska Intertribal Council Convention meeting was also attended by Assistant Secretary of Interior Ada Deer. She was a featured speaker. She acknowledged the legal fight ahead and gave her own personal views on other issues.
I have 2 brothers, 2 sisters, 12 nieces and nephews, and a number of little grandnieces and nephews, and I constantly remind them that we don't appreciate, don't approve of drinking and drugs and smoking, and I feel that this is a constant effort on everyone's part. They know that Anti-ADA has standards, and I expect them to shape up and to adhere to them. Now, I'm sure that they have their own little methods of deviation, but I tell them that I was born yesterday.
According to past president of Alaska Intertribal Council, Will Mayo, there's going to be a waiting process until all court proceedings are exhausted. Let's travel now to the East Coast, to Maine, where thousands of years ago the Indians thrived. Then between 1616 and 1619, 90% of that population was decimated. Well, today they're on their way back.
The Wabanaki, the people of the Dawn Land, have lived in what is now Maine and Maritime Canada for more than 11,000 years. It was not until the early 1600s that Europeans came to live in the territory inhabited by 32,000 Wabanaki people. This contact was disastrous. From 1616 to 1619, 90% of the Wabanaki died. During the thousands of years prior to contact, the Wabanaki lived according to their spiritual connection with Mother Earth. They have preserved this connection, passing on their values orally from one generation to the next.
We still survive because the Great Spirit wanted us to survive. He put us here, and He will see that we survive. But it's been difficult for the last 500 years.
We're at a time of survival of the native cultures. In other words, that in the final days of all of the struggles, that there has to be that final throw to resurrect or to bring back the cultural ways.
To survive is to be able to be independent and to be able to practice what you believe in and to pursue it and never lose yourself in the whole process.
Hopefully we'll find that survival as a tribal group or as a Wabanaki group will be stronger than our individual weaknesses and the bad habits that we get into. Hopefully survival will be the foundation of our unity. You know, it's a real big aspect in our lives.
We sense the fire by the smoke and can feel its heat after it has gone because it has warmed the rocks. We cannot experience the fire directly without being consumed, but we can understand the fire by what it does, what it gives to us.
Nulas weltum bemki skak. Edo jigulina walk isi bunin. Edo jigulina walk pseudan de elabi. Wijo kemin bemki skak. Skadnus amida hom siwan. Wijo kemin bemki skak namitun dan yud pseu eli milin. Kamaj Woligan, Kamaj Nulas Weltum. Kamaj Namitun, Edut Sanuig, Kazyak Sawagan, Ali Wunabi. Kamaj Na Nulida Haz, Yud Gizi Bunin, Bemkiska. It's only been recently, in the last 20 years, that there's been a sense of hope. Not just to survive. The hope that somehow we're dignified human beings. That is somehow like a reinjection of spirit. You know, there was a time when survival meant not being you. The legacy of that is trying to walk through a maze. Because in a maze you can't see anything. But if your spirit is good, and you rely on forces that you don't understand, you're going to get through it. We've tried many ways to survive. We've tried not being us. We've tried another religion's journey. We've tried destroying ourselves. We're just beginning to emerge from that dungeon.
Here I was going through the process, growing up in this little community and going into the dominant society, into their realm, and then finding out that it was more fashionable to be white than it was to be Indian. And yet my struggle and with my identity was to preserve that because it was important, because that was who I was.
It really upset me because Indian always lost. And it gave us a bad name. I always said, geez, this gives us a bad name for some reason. Even as a child, I always knew that. I knew this isn't right for some reason. When I start wanting to be a cowboy, there's something wrong. There's something wrong with the system itself or the projection of who I am.
I think anyone that's not Native American should just back up and leave. You know, of course, that's not going to happen.
Survival means that there must be a revival. There must be a reawakening of things that are still remembered by people. There's got to be a reconciliation or reaffirmation of their values. There's got to be a time of confrontation, a time of healing, and a time for going on. If we don't go through the processes of each of these, there will be no survival. I don't mean that we won't be here as a people. We will not be a distinct people with a distinct contribution.
If we're not united spiritually and mentally and physically, you know, we're not going to make it.
I think to me part of survival is to find meaning in wherever you're at, in whatever experience you're in. I think not surviving is never to look for the meaning.
For Wabanaki, the journey is never ending, a continual search for connection, balance, a oneness with life around them. All Wabanaki bear the scars and lessons of the past 500 years. Although Native culture goes back thousands of years, it has been this recent history that has severely tested Wabanaki spirit. This journey has had many elements: pain, anger, bewilderment, acceptance, and most importantly, a resolve to preserve values and continue.
If your values are strong, if your spirit is strong, that gives you not only the stamina, but gives you the courage.
The culture is going to come back to the Native people because of the fact there is going to be unity amongst us one more time. It'll happen. I'm not sure what's really is going to make this happen, but it's something that I see in our future. It is the unity that is needed to bring back our culture.
There is no room in me to understand myself through someone else's eyes. I must see myself with the eyes of the eagle. For if I believe in myself and my culture, I am in charge. I am the eagle moving above all that I am a part of.
All those things that seem important today, like the money and the material things, will be secondary again, where they're supposed to be. And so therefore it creates a balance in my life. It isn't that, you know, I'm without a lot of things. I have material things, and they're very convenient. But if they were taken away from me today, then I would probably say, well, that's okay. You know, that's not the center of my being. That's not who I am.
It's easy enough to preserve a culture. That's what museums are for. We're not talking about that. We're talking about being able to have the right to continue to live a culture. There's a big difference. It's more important to make sure that we always have the space to hunt, always have the space to fish, always have the space to just be alone in the woods and learn the skills of survival. Those are the basic elements that got us here. And those are the elements that keep the spirit of your culture alive.
Who I am is my values. Who I am is native. Who I am is being part of this land and being part of everything that's around me. That's who I am.
I ask you, Great Spirit, to watch over your land. All that is touched by wind and water and fire is yours. Watch over me, that I may make my way over the rocks and across the water you have given to me. May my spirit join with yours to soar above the earth and watch over it with you.
The greatest support for a Wabanaki cultural revival is the underlying spiritual strength being passed on by tribal elders and leaders. Values are expressed through a connection of past and present in a rebirth of ritual and ceremony. It is this vision and commitment to life's forces that gives meaning and validity to Wabanaki experience. As with all ritual and religious rites, inner needs and spiritual relationships are manifested through outward presentations. The power of songs, prayers, dances, and ceremonies are central to the Wabanaki spirit. They are cultural tradition passed down generation to generation and holding truths even in contexts not envisioned by ancestors.
Thank you, Ed Bassett from the Passamaquoddy in Maine, for sharing that video with us. Let's take a moment now for some good Native music with our own local residents. Originally, though, from Acoma, New Mexico, here's Anthony Adams.
On the Mesa, I watch the sun go down. 15 miles away, see the lights of the town. On the horizon, I see them collide, colors red, green, and blue. I'm high on this Mesa, alone here tonight. My heart is crying for you. I'm high on this Mesa, been here most of the day. Just sitting thinking of her, too bitter to pray. And watch the worm in the bottle slowly spin to the bottom and sink from my point of view. I'm high on this Mesa, alone here tonight. My heart is crying for you. And high from this Mesa view, I see memories of you. Between the gold and the past, they say I won't last. My heart's crying for you. Tomorrow will buy me a shirt, I clean up and shave. I try to look good for her when I visit her grave. I'll swing by the garden of hers to pick her a flower or two. Then tears will start falling, my angel is calling, my heart's crying for you. And high from this Mesa view, I see memories of you. Between the gold and the past, they say I won't last. My heart is crying for you. you're not coming back. My heart is crying for you.
Thank you so much for joining us once again for Heartbeat Alaska, Native News and Native Entertainment. I'm Jeannie Green, constantly asking for your video. That's one way we share your news with the rest of the viewers of Heartbeat Alaska. Whether you live on the East, West, or Middle America, across Canada, whether you live in Alaska or across the North, we're looking for video, and please get your Christmas greetings. There's still time. For all of us here, God bless you. Have a fabulous week, and we'll see you again next week.
There's a